Hello and welcome to Ekevator Reviews. Today let's take a look at the newer 5th generation Honda Stepwagon. It's not necessarily new globally, but it's new to the Kenyan market. This 5th generation was introduced in 2015 and it remained in production up until 2021, but in 2017 it received a facelift. That also brought about the introduction of the hybrid powertrain. This minivan is still very rare, but very soon it will start showing up on Kenyan roads. At the moment, it's very difficult to find it in car dealerships, but as soon as I'm able to get one, I'll try my best to bring you an in-depth exterior and interior review. But today, let's talk about it and find out all its specifications. The previous generation of this minivan is doing fairly well here in Kenya. It's actually a minivan that should have done way better, but it has somehow been overshadowed by the well-established Toyota Noah and Toyota Voxy. Another reason why it has not sold that well is because some people think that the spare parts are very difficult to find, but they are in fact readily available, especially in major cities. And generally, it's not an expensive minivan to maintain, as some people may think or perceive. You may spend just about the same amount you would spend in servicing a Toyota Voxy, so there's really not much big difference. So now with this newer 5th generation, let's begin with its looks. Do let me know what you think about its design in the comment section. Do you prefer this or the Toyota Voxy? Some people are of the opinion that it looks weird, while others think it looks good. Personally, I think it looks good, but I prefer the Voxy's look. At the front, there's this huge chrome grille that is now a common sight on most modern Hondas. It definitely adds a touch of premiumness to the vehicle. When you look at its side profile, you will quickly notice just how long and tall it is. It also sits lower to the ground compared to the previous 2014 model. Generally, it looks huge and boxy, which should translate in a very spacious interior. At the back, it looks very unique. You can just see how the waistline drops to a lower level as it approaches the left tail light. It's very unique and unlike any other minivan on the road. Now, the boot lid can be opened in two different configurations. You can open it as a normal boot or partially, as you can see on the screen, almost like the way you would open a fridge. Honda calls this design waku, which means exciting in Japan. It's a very unique and clever design. If you just want to quickly put something small in the boot, you can use the small opening, while if you want to access the whole boot, you can open it the conventional way. In other markets, this design of the boot lid alone has lured some people to this minivan, so it's quite a unique and rare feature. Moving on into the interior, this is now the most spacious minivan in its class, beating the Voxy, Serena, Mitsubishi Delica, and even Mazda Biante. The wheelbase of this minivan measures in at around 2890mm. Compare that to the newer Voxy, which has a wheelbase of around 2850mm. So this Stepwagon has more space in between the front and rear tires. Remember, the longer a car's wheelbase, the more interior space it will have. In fact, if you have two cars and one is longer than the other, if the shorter one has a longer wheelbase, then it will have more interior space. You can get this Stepwagon with two seating configurations, either as a 7 or an 8-seater. The dashboard design is simplistic and well laid out. In fact, it doesn't look all that different to the Voxy's dash design. They both have their gear levers located on the dashboard, and generally everything is located where you would expect it to be, from the AC vents to the infotainment screen and even the instrument cluster that is located in front of the driver, which again is very similar to the newer Voxy. The older Voxy used to have the instrument cluster located at the center of the dashboard, which was not such an ideal position because it was not in the driver's line of sight. This Stepwagon gets cup holders on either side of the dashboard, just below the AC vents. In terms of the storage, there is a shelf just above the glove box, again which is very similar to the newer Voxy. The glove box is decently sized, and you also get armrests for that added comfort. At the second row, you can either get two captain seats or a bench seat that can comfortably accommodate 3 passengers. These seats can be moved backwards or frontwards to create more room for the passengers seated at the third row. There are also tables located behind the front seats that can be flipped upwards, so you can have maybe a meal or use it as a writing table. Cup holders are also integrated into these tables. The third row of seats seem to be just as comfortable as in the Voxy. The head, leg and foot room are all very generous. There are AC vents throughout the entire cabin, so even the back passengers will have a comfortable ride. With the third row of seats up, the boot is decent enough, especially due to that deep boot floor that can allow you to put several items. If you need more space, then the third row of seats can be folded into the floor to create a large storage space. And if that is not enough, then you can move the second row of seats frontwards to transform this minivan into a bus full of storage space. So this is one very spacious and practical minivan. So that said, let's now talk about its specifications, beginning with the price, which will definitely be over 2 million shillings. At the moment, I don't have the exact prices because this car is not available in car dealerships, but once I get one, I'll be able to get the exact price range. In terms of the engine options, there's only one, which is a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine that is mated to a CVT gearbox. This engine produces 148 horsepower and you can get it in either front or all-wheel drive. The hybrid powertrain was introduced in 2017 when this minivan was facelifted. Now, this engine is quite small for this big minivan, but it produces more power due to that turbo. Generally, smaller engines that are turbocharged don't age that well. They normally start having problems as they age, but this being a Honda, I reckon it's made to last. So let's leave that to time and see just how well it will perform and age in the Kenyan market. Actually, this is among the first mainstream vehicles to have Honda's 1.5 turbocharged engine that we will be getting in Kenya. Most of the previous Hondas we have been getting have always been naturally aspirated and they have been super reliable and durable. So let's wait and see how this newer turbo engine will perform and age. In terms of fuel consumption, Honda claims that this 1.5 litre turbo can achieve up to 17 kilometers per litre, but with 7 passengers on board, it will drop to maybe 13 or 14 kilometers per litre depending on how you drive. Something about these turbocharged engines is that they can be very fuel efficient if they are driven reasonably. But the moment you start driving them aggressively, the consumption will significantly drop. That power and performance will definitely come at a price. The fuel tank is 52 liters. Let's not talk about the service costs. Once I'm able to get the car, I will then be able to confirm the service costs. So let's skip that for now, but I reckon it will almost cost the same amount with the Voxy or Toyota Noah. As for the ground clearance, it measures in at around 140mm, which is below the recommended 165mm. So there are chances that the underside may get scratched, especially when going over severe bumps or even on uneven road surfaces. And the fact that it's a long minivan, it will even be more difficult to go over these bumps. Maybe the best thing to do is to install very slightly larger wheels, because if you interfere with the suspension, then you will affect its handling. This minivan gets discs all around, with the front ones being ventilated, so the stopping power should be very adequate. Lastly, the carb weight of this big minivan ranges between 1630 to around 1770 kgs, and it's actually slightly heavier than the Voxy, whose weight ranges between 1560 to around 1730. So there you have it. Should you wait for this Stepwagon or just go ahead and buy a Voxy or Noah? First of all, this Stepwagon is super spacious. It's powerful, being that it now has a turbocharged engine. It's fuel efficient and also unique, especially due to that tailgate design. The Voxy, on the other hand, it also looks good. It's more fuel efficient, especially the hybrid variant. It's super reliable and the resale value is just amazing. So it becomes very difficult to make a choice between these two minivans because both are very good options. If you want outstanding fuel consumption, then get the Voxy hybrid. If you want a minivan for business, then again just get the Voxy. The reason why I say this is because this Honda Stepwagon is new to the Kenyan market, and finding its spare parts may be a problem at first before they become common. The spare parts will also be slightly more expensive compared to those of Toyota. Another reason is that being that this Stepwagon is now turbocharged, it will require a strict maintenance schedule. Otherwise, if you're not careful, the turbo may end up dying on you, and it will definitely not be a cheap fix. It will be a good idea to frequently change the oil in this Stepwagon. You don't have to wait till 10,000 kilometers to perform the minor service. Do it after 5,000 kilometers because of two reasons. The first one is because some of these Honda engines are known to have oil dilution issues, and this is whereby the engine oil ends up mixing with the fuel, and with time this may cause some engine problems. So the moment you start smelling fuel inside the car, then that may be a sign of oil dilution. So don't wait till 10,000 kilometers to do the minor service. Just do the minor service after every 5,000 kilometers. The second reason why it's important to change the oil frequently is because this engine is now turbocharged. These forced induction systems produce a lot of heat, and hence they need good lubrication. So it will be a good idea to use high quality engine oil and do the oil replacement frequently. So that said, in other words, the Voxy is a workhorse. It can take a beating because it doesn't have a turbocharged engine, so it's very easy and uncomplicated to maintain. The spare parts are easily available and the resale value is very good. On the other hand, this Honda Stepwagon has a more premium feel to it. It's the kind of minivan that can be used for executive businesses or as a family vehicle. That is not to say that it can't do what the Voxy can. It very well can, but it's a bit more upmarket and it will require a careful service schedule. So that's it for this episode. I hope this has been helpful. Do let me know which one between these two minivans you will pick. My personal choice will be the Toyota Voxy. Thanks a lot for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel for more informative content on cars. If you have any enquiries, feel free to reach me via email or WhatsApp. Stay safe. See you in the next video.